We got a report, ladies and gentlemen, that MAGA plans to crash homecoming for historically black colleges and universities. Good luck with that. I hope you show up to mine. Clark Atlanta University, I give you the time, date, et cetera, in just a moment. We'd love for you all to come, by the way. Put it up for a mass. Hell of a new plan here. It won't work. But damn, the idea is audacious. According to News One, there's a new campaign calling itself the, quote, Educate to Liberate Tour. They are preparing to roll through historically black colleges and universities this fall, just in time for homecoming season. The tour, backed by Turning Point USA and branded through its blackface offshoot BLEXIT, claims it wants to spark dialogue and promote free thought on HBCU campuses. Oh, they come to set us free. Okay, well, why do you say that at first? You came to educate black folk and to set them free in their academic institutional environment. That makes perfect sense to me. But after watching similar operations play out elsewhere, the goal looks less like debate and learning and more like provocation and a political incursion into sacred black spaces under the guise of outreach. But Dr. Stacey Patton of News One points out, quote, educate and liberate isn't a new phrase. It's a battle cry from black educational history, one born from struggle. It echoes the philosophy of institutions where the pursuit of learning was inseparable from the pursuit of freedom. To see that slogan repurposed by a movement that has fought affirmative action, mocked DEI, and cheered book bans is more than tone deaf. It's an act of symbolic violence. It's the theft of our language of liberation, scrubbed of meaning and repackaged for white approval. Well said, Dr. Patton. Homecoming season is not just a party. It is a sacred time. It's when generations return to celebrate survival, scholarship, and joy. For groups like BLEXIT to time their appearances during this season is no coincidence. It is psychological warfare. They're not coming to learn. They're coming to agitate, to harass, and to see how far they can push the boundary before being pushed back. They want footage of confrontation, not conversation. Put up as some of those pictures as we reported last week, a group called Fearless Debates, a handful of white men in MAGA hats, wielding signs that read things like, quote, DEI should be illegal, and, quote, deport all illegals now, showed up uninvited at Texas State University. Students confronted them and campus police escorted them off grounds. Within hours, conservative pundits flooded social media, portraying the encounter as an example of black intolerance. You see the one that says, Charlie is our generation's MLK. No, he's not. He is not. MLK, Martin Luther King Jr., is Martin Luther King Jr. not because of how he died, but because of how he lived. Never forget that. The recent invasion of HBCUs is not accidental. It represents a new phase in a decade-long campaign to infiltrate American higher education with white grievance politics. Since its founding, Turning Point USA has specialized in weaponizing free speech rhetoric to turn campuses, into ideological battlegrounds, from Wisconsin to Florida. Its events have followed a familiar script. A provocative speaker arrives, students protest, conservative media label it censorship, and donors celebrate the confrontation as proof that the left hates ideas. Now, that same playbook is being redeployed at HBCUs, which are spaces that are deliberately created to shield black students from the hostility of white supremacist aggression and exclusion. It's a cynical escalation. The very communities that build their own schools because they were barred from white ones are now being cast as the intolerant gatekeepers of cancel culture. Dr. Patton goes on to say, the danger isn't that a handful of students will be, quote, converted. The danger is that conservative operatives will succeed in normalizing their presence on Black campuses, turning them into sites of surveillance and content harvesting. Once accepted as legitimate, these visits can grow into partnerships, fellowships, and media platforms that funnel Black pain into white entertainment. The goal is not to persuade, but to neutralize and to domesticate the radical potential of HBCUs by turning them into props in someone else's redemption story. There's more, and I'm going to read more. I am a proud graduate of an HBCU. I continue to lecture. I'm a professor at an HBCU. There's something about the culture of an HBCU that provides strength, especially for undergraduate students who have never had the environment of Black excellence, leadership, and community. Many of us come from spaces that are fragmented by white nationalism or institutional bias, and we have to contend with these biases in such a way they become either subtle or seemingly non-existent to the person who's actually experiencing it, because we are indoctrinated to believe in its normalcy when it is nothing but. So you get on the Black campus, HBCU, you have this beautiful experience. There's a reason why the vast majority of CEOs at major companies touched an HBCU if they're Black before they got there. They're not Ivy League educated Black men and women in those spaces. So you have this confidence builder, if you would. It's not about you being smart enough, you're smart enough, but you got to know that you belong at the table. And if you have individuals who are constantly ripping away your self-confidence while you are being educated, well, it defeats the purpose. So HBCUs provide the confidence and the stellar education in order to make the graduate successful. Now, that is being disrupted. Dr. Stacey Patton offers the following guidance to combat it. I encourage everyone to listen. I'm listening, all right? So HBCU students, faculty, and administrators now face a hard question. How do you respond to the people who arrive in bad faith? Engagement can feel like the higher ground, but in this case, engagement is the trap. These activists are not interested in persuasion. They're interested in performance. They come equipped with cameras, microphones, and social media teams ready to cut and splice any exchange into propaganda. The answer isn't to ignore them completely either. Silence can be edited into compliance. And so the key is disciplined strategy by recognizing that the real audience is not on the yard, but online. Every interaction becomes potential content. So students must approach these moments like a chess match, not a brawl. First, they must control the narrative. If they film, you film. Use campus media, student journals, and communications programs to document events accurately and on your own terms. Publish quickly before misinformation spreads. Don't let outsiders define your response. Don't feed the outrage economy. These groups are professional provocateurs. The goal is to make you angry on camera. Don't give them the reaction they came for. Calm presence, laughter, and joy are more revolutionary than shouting matches. Let their manipulation expose itself. Establish clear protocols. Administrators should enforce rules of engagement, whether uninvited groups can set up tables, what permits are required, and how campus police coordinate with student organizations. Clarity protects both safety and narrative. Create counter-programming. Rather than debating professional trolls, host teach-ins about propaganda, disinformation, and political grooming. Use these moments as lessons in media literacy and psychological self-defense. Invite scholars, historians, and activists who understand how movements like BLEXIT mimic the tactics of Cold War psychological operation. And lastly, reclaim the joy, J-O-Y, the most radical act in the face of white supremacist intrusion is Black joy. Keep the music, keep the parades, the food, and the laughter alive. Do not allow cynics to define homecoming as a battleground. Protect the celebration as an act of resistance. Beautiful advice. Well said. Well done, Doc. Um, I know you share my sentiment when I say it's sad that a moment of celebration has to transform into a strategy to protect ourselves in the midst of such a celebration. All right. Okay. Professor, what say you?
Yeah, it is really sad. But this is what we're all sitting through. And I think all of us Americans who are unhappy with this administration and with the rise of these sort of vigilante groups, and fairly extremist groups, including ones tied to Turning Point USA and Charlie Kirk. I think the goal for all of us has to be to follow the advice you outlined, which is we have to stay within ourselves in our communities and not go for, they're trying to get reactions from people, right? So, like, think for example, this is uncannily and eerily similar to what we're seeing with the National Guard and the military entering in our various cities. What are they trying to do? They're trying to create some sort of conflict. They're trying to provoke conflict so then that they can use that as a basis to further flood cities with military. What is this? This is martial law, right? On many levels. So we're heading toward that.
Yeah.
And I just want to remind everybody, I actually went to college with a member of Trump's cabinet. I probably shouldn't give his name on air. And I remember when I was in college with him, I got him into like punk rock and pretty good music. I was a college radio DJ. I was a hip hop kind of funk jazz DJ, but then I got into punk. I got him into like cool progressive punk. And then he would ask questions to me. I remember, why do black people have a dorm? He would ask these questions to me. Why is there such a thing as black history? So I think we all need to be very wary that HBCUs could go down the same path as these attacks on diversity, equity, and inclusion that we've seen all around us. And we have to recognize that the attempt is to normalize fear and to provoke reactions.
Right.
But in the meantime, HBCUs should recognize how sacred and important they are. They should support their communities. They should celebrate all that they stand for, and they should recognize that don't take the bait. But one elephant in the room that I just want to mention, which is we have to recognize how incredibly effective Turning Point USA was and other organizations organizing on college campuses.
Yep.
How there are these organizations that are playing into people's anger and hate, and maybe not even hate, just fear, anxiety, exclusion, all of this that are organizing. And I think the big elephant in the room that all of us have had to sit with is recognizing that the online world was taken over by right-wing podcasters, people like Charlie Kirk, people like Ben Shapiro, etc. They have flooded this world. So they have organized on campuses with a message of exclusion and anxiety, and I would say in some cases hate.
Yeah.
It's our opportunity to actually follow Dr. King's vision and organize on campuses, organize online with the message of love and community and security for an incredibly insecure population.